Hello, Rodney here. Nice to be with you today. Today was the day of the Canadian Grand Prix, and I thought, given that we've just had a race, given that there's so much news around, thought it might be time to do a little live stream. Just me, solo boloing it. Got my silly soundboard, got some clips, got a lot of news stories we're going to read. That means it's time for this.
Wow, I guess this is a big moment. I should care about it.
And today we might do a bit of this.
Lewis, I love you and respect you.
And none of this.
Esti Besties on the podium, baby!
Ouch. So, you're probably thinking to yourself, Rod, you look so refreshed, you look so well rested. How can that be? Wasn't the Canadian Grand Prix on at like 4 a.m. your time? It was. Did you get up to watch it? I did not. That wouldn't be too abnormal, except that was my plan. And I set an alarm and I woke up at 7:30 and went, what? And I checked my phone and there was an alarm in my phone and it was switched off as though it had gone off, and like it wasn't like I put in the wrong time or anyway. I missed it, but I watched the replay and it was very good. Good race. Average result, I guess. But I thought just lots of developments and, ultimately you can't really complain when you get races like that. So there's a lot to get to. Today I want to talk about, we're going to start with the Jacques Villeneuve controversy, his usual bullshit. Then we'll go through the 2026 regulations that came out. A little bit of driver news. We'll check in on the state of Formula One in the US of A. There's a few stories there about how well it's doing, and there's some pretty high stakes for a few particular people in and around the Hollywood circles. So they really need Formula One to be firing in the US, and I'll tell you why later. A surprise Ferrari test that Ferrari did for the FIA, and then some good news that we'll end on. So there's a lot to get through. I've actually got heaps. This might be too much. I might have bitten off more than I can chew here, but let's give it the old crack. What we're going to start with, let me get my stream shit together. We skip forward to Canada. Everybody loves Canada. Now I know it was the Canadian Grand Prix. I know Jacques Villeneuve was a world champion, and I know that he's from Canada. These are all things that I know. I've been around the traps. I know these things. But Jacques Villeneuve has been one of those, you could almost say that he's a troll. You could basically say that he's a troll, not physically, although, he's getting there. In his comments, he's a controversy magnet, and he seeks the limelight, and he's asked questions, and he gives pointed opinions, spares nobody's feelings, gives zero fucks. And really, I think, he's been doing it for so long now that there's no attempt to smooth off, roll off his controversial takes. So you'd have to assume at this point, after about 20 years of trying to do this, that he's doing it on purpose. So let's cut to Jacques Villeneuve on the grid in Canada being asked about Daniel Ricciardo. So obviously the situation, you've probably seen these clips, but I just want to play them just to live within them and have some thoughts about them. But you probably notice on the grid here, Rachel Brooks, I believe this is, Corinne Chandhok, does a great job. And then over here, this is the man in question, Jacques Villeneuve, the man of the hour, the man everyone loves to hate. But it shouldn't be discounted that standing here is Danica Patrick, who I think Sky are really hoping that she'll sort of, be a bit of a face for women in motorsport and a voice for women in motorsport and an advocate for it. Although that said, she seems to be universally despised, especially by women. She's what in the racing circles we like to call a bit of a MAGA shithead. She's got some incredibly bad opinions about just people in life. So it's easy to not like her. I didn't have much of an opinion on her either way until I learned all of that stuff. But she's on the coverage and everybody hates it. And then Jacques Villeneuve, well, enough said. But we'll play through this, and I think this just does a great job of encapsulating within about 1 minute the best of the verbal sparring that happened between Jacques Villeneuve and Daniel Ricciardo.
Jack, anything to add on Daniel?
Why is he still in F1?
Why?
Look at the nods. Why is he still in F1? Lots of nods. Shit. These people are all on Daniel Ricciardo's shit list now.
We're hearing the same thing now for the last 4 or 5 years. We have to make the car better for him, poor him. Sorry, it's been 5 years of that. No, you're in F1.
I mean, he's been in bad cars for a long time, so I don't understand this comment. We have to make the car better for him. I think what they mean is we have to change the car to suit his racing style. Spoiler alert, you sort of have to do that for every driver, pretty much.
Maybe you make that
I mean, but the best drivers obviously can drive through problems better.
effort for Lewis Hamilton, who's won multiple championships. You don't make that effort for a driver that can't cut it. If you can't cut it, go home. There's someone else to take your place. That's how it's always been in racing. It's the pinnacle of the sport. There's no reason to keep going and to keep finding excuses. And you all talk about that first season or first 2 seasons. He was beating a Vettel that was burnt out, that was trying to invent things with the car to go win and just making a mess of his weekends. And then he was beating for half a season Verstappen when Verstappen was 18 years old, just starting. Then that was it.
So, I mean, he brings up Daniel's history as if like he's only had 2 good years, which is like, okay, I mean, he's had good races and shown a lot of promise along the years, but he talks about, okay, so he beat Vettel in his first year. Vettel, who he says like he was burnt out or something. I mean, I don't know, man. One day I'll dig into that whole year because I think there's a bit of a fishy smell about that year, to be honest. But he says he beat Vettel 1 year, sure, but then he also beat Verstappen for half of the year, which is completely valid, out-qualified him and out-raced him while he was still finding his feet in a new team. And then since then, Verstappen got the best of him. And then since then, everyone's beaten Daniel as teammates. Like, look, you know, it's not that he says anything untrue. But I mean, like, there's half of the grid you could say that about. There's half of the grid that you could say gets beaten by his teammate basically every year. Look at Sergio Perez, for fuck's sake.
Stopped beating anyone after that.
I mean, that's quite a harsh look at his...
Yeah, good on Rachel Brooks for having a go at saying, yeah, that's harsh. Like, as if no one understood. Now we're making it very clear that that's very harsh. Corinne doesn't know where to look.
career. From your point of view then, do you think he's been overrated the whole time? He's been...
I think it's his image has kept it in F1 more than...
Yeah, this comment here, I mean, Daniel admitted this himself when he returned to the Red Bull family saying, yeah, I'm mostly here so that I can be a marketing draw. That was when he didn't even have a drive. I mean, I think it's valid to say that Red Bull, you know, were butthurt that Ricciardo left. And then, you know, when he was sniffing around, like, maybe I can come back, they were like a bit of an opportunity to maybe take the high road and say, well, maybe you shouldn't ever have left, Buster Brown.
His actual results.
I know.
So we cut to the reaction here. So here's Daniel beaming. This is after qualifying, obviously. He qualified in P5, 2/10 off pole position. And if you haven't seen the comparison, it's incredibly tight. And obviously, Russell and Verstappen set the exact same time for pole in qualifying. Russell set it first, so he gets the actual position. But then the top 4 and 5 were very close. Like sometimes you see on the grids where they like, here's based on the times, here's how far away, here's the gap between the drivers physically, and it's like nothing for the top 5. But obviously, yeah. Well, let's just enjoy this.
You've had your critics this weekend. Is that a way to answer them?
I've had, sorry.
You've had your critics this weekend. Is that a good way to answer?
Is that Rachel asking the question? She's like really, she's stirring it on. Like she's definitely like setting him up here.
To them?
I've just been told. I don't listen or read, but yeah, there's definitely some people out there who, yeah, whatever. I won't give them the time of day, but yeah, top 5. I've been quick all weekend. We're less than 2/10 from pole, so.
They've muted the audio everywhere that I've found this, but he leans into the microphone and says, they can eat shit. Wow, Jacques and Mr. Villeneuve, they can both do that. And then he smiles and walks off like, great mic drop over it. He also gave a quote to somebody. It might have been print media, but it was like, "I've heard my critics. They, maybe I don't really listen to them. I don't give them the time of day. Maybe they've been playing too much ice hockey and had a few bangs to the head or something." I mean, nobody is. What do you say? Nobody's minding their words. Everyone's having a go and digging in. But I mean, that's one of the highlights from the weekend. There you go. This is Daniel's reaction.
I'm tripping major nutsack right now.
So, one of the other big stories that happened recently was the release of the first draft, the first go of the 2026 regulations. So the FIA has been cooking away these regulations that are supposed to improve everything, fix every problem that the sport has. And they're like, 2026, it's all going to start popping off. It's all going to go absolutely nutso. So this weekend, to coincide with the Canadian Grand Prix, they gave us their first look at what that looks like. So we're going to go through some of that. And if anyone knows why the Formula One website is doing this, there's like, you go to a story on the F1 website and it's like, oh, did you know that the Canadian race happened? Here's the result. Here's some videos. Like, yeah, I know, but I want to read this story. FIA unveils Formula One regulations for 2026 and beyond, featuring more agile cars and active aerodynamics, writes Lawrence Barreto. And if you haven't seen the car, here's a look. Not too bad. Someone pointed out it's got big 2007 vibes, especially around the nose. You look how round this nose is. It's low, but the old nose from 2007 used to look like that. We'll go through some of the features of it, but I mean, while we've got this photo on the screen, you can see the change to the end plates here. So the end plate sits sort of on the inside line of the wheel rather than the outside line. And then there's this tiny little, this little guy here having a go. This little dingus just sticking up here. Formula One's governing body, the FIA, has unveiled the agile, competitive, safer, and more sustainable set of regulations that will define the sport from 2026 and beyond. Revised aerodynamic regulations will work in tandem with new power unit rules, which include increased battery power and the use of 100% sustainable fuels. So we'll get into some of that in a little bit. But here's the dot points. Here's the executive summary of the rule changes. From 2026 onwards, Formula One will have more agile cars, which are 30 kilograms lighter and thus better able to battle on track. Now this one, in the last couple of years, the Formula One cars have gone up in weight by about 250 kilograms. So going down, if they can do it, okay, great. But 30 kilograms is also like not really going to make too much difference. A redesigned power unit featuring increased battery power and an even split between internal combustion engine and electronic power, plus the use of 100% sustainable fuels. So there's more battery power. I think 3 times more battery power can be charged up and deployed throughout a race, throughout a lap. Now, obviously, if you're using more battery power, you can use less fuels. And this is also one of the problems with, I think, the switch to 100% sustainable fuels is they couldn't get enough combustion out of them. So now, if they tweak all of this and give people more battery power and less drag, because I believe less drag will mean less revving of the engine and such to get to the top speeds, and that will mean you use less fuel, therefore the sustainable fuels become viable. So there you go. We've done it. Active aerodynamics in the form of a movable front and rear wings to allow for closer racing. Now this, I understand, would be available to all cars all the time when they're on the straight. And currently we have a DRS. So DRS opens when you're following someone and you can go faster. This would be similar, but front and rear wings could move to reduce the drag, and then cars can just go faster on the straight. That would just be all the time. That has a few benefits. One is that the cars can go faster without having to burn as much fuel and wear their tires as much as well, I guess. But also, it disrupts the air behind them less, which makes it's easier for 2 cars to follow and overtake, in theory, which has been one of the just core problems that we've been trying to solve for a long time. Increased overtaking? What? Increased overtaking opportunities through the introduction of a new system that gives drivers a short burst of additional battery power when within 1 second of the car in front. So a lot of the headlines that I saw about this were like, goodbye DRS. DRS is gone. The truth is we're going to have something a bit like DRS anyway. So they're obviously not so confident in these changes to the rules that they think overtaking will still be easy. It'll still be difficult. At least they are worried that it will still be difficult. And the idea is that with the movable wings, they will have higher speeds down the straights. And then when they slow those cars down, they will have an opportunity to charge up the batteries more. That extra power can then be deployed by drivers that are following, much in the way you now deploy DRS. I feel like if everything else is a good move, I think, and of course this remains to be seen, but on paper it all sounds good except for this one, because I feel like if you're currently not happy with DRS, you're going to be just as unhappy with this sort of push to overtake option. And for me, DRS is about opening a flap to reduce the drag so that you can have have more power to overtake the driver in front of you. Now, I mean, I can't see any difference between that and this, where you open the flaps so you can go faster to charge a battery, then deploy the battery when you're following to have more power so you can overtake. To me, that just doesn't really... There's just no difference. Right or wrong, I mean, I know DRS has its fans and its detractors, but I just don't see the difference. So maybe just don't get everyone hyped on, hey, we got rid of DRS. Now you can, if you're a purist, you can come back to the sport. This undoes all of that. So, I don't know. Improve safety through stronger structures and even tougher tests. I believe this is about containment of the fuel cell, which I guess if you're using less fuel, you've got more opportunity to reinforce it more. I don't know how they're going to do that and take 30 kilos off the car, but that's up to them to solve, I suppose. Commitment from a record number of 6 power unit manufacturers. Well, yeah, fine, cool. Here's a top-down view. So I said before that the change to the front wing here. So instead of having this big end plate on the outside, that big raised part is on the inside of the wheel, and this is what it looks like on the outside. But it's basically almost the width of the wheel. As well as that, and I don't understand any of this stuff. I'm just repeating words that I've heard, but here, there's these little scoopy-in wings. I think these are called scoopy-in wings. There's little scoopers. And what I heard was, instead of having an outwash where air funnels into the car and then flows out to the side of the car, this will ensure that the drag and the wake and the airflow is kept within the car. So this is about stopping outflow of air going out this way. For what it's worth. Don't think there's anything too exciting down here except for maybe some more photos. There you go. Overall, I think the cars look okay. They're slightly narrower. They're slightly shorter. If you saw them next to each other, you'd be hard-pressed to know the difference. It's only when they market it and say these cars are lighter, more narrow, and shorter. They all sound good. It's a bit like when Apple makes the iPhone 0.1 of a millimeter thinner. It's like, cool. They're thinner, but so what? Well, people have been reacting. Drivers have been reacting. The public have been reacting. And some of it's good. Some of it maybe still needs a little bit of work. This is from the fine people at crash.net. FIA admit F1 2026 rules need refinements amid team and driver fears. Oh no. F1's governing body, the FIA, has admitted that the planned technical regulation overhaul for 2026 will need refinements amid fears and concerns from the teams. The plans have been met by a mixed response from drivers and teams alike, with 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton questioning whether the rules are in the right direction for the sport. Doesn't sound so good. Addressing concerns relating to straight line speed, FIA technical director Jan Monchot. Did I get that right? We will make sure the top speeds are not reaching levels that would be a safety concern and we have means to do that. I think that that's in relation to the reduction in drag caused by the active wings. Obviously, the concern would be, what if you lose it and you're at top speed? What if you're trying to overtake someone? What if you whatever? And you have to move and you've got to keep control, and all of a sudden you don't have the wing that you normally have. You don't have the drag you normally have. That's not good. There's also, I guess, just speed concerns. They're saying we're going to be addressing concerns that, this might result in cars that are not faster than the F2 cars, which, to put it bluntly, that would not be ideal. So the 2026 rules, I think overall there's some good things there. They're basically saying the rules are not quite set in stone. They've been put forward for discussion and further tweaks. Smart people will get on top of all the bad things about them, I'm sure. And they will they'll smooth out all the cracks. It'll be fun. 2026 can't get here fast enough. So what else can we do? We can talk about a bit of driver stuff. There's been a lot of driver movements and a few other unexpected stories that I wanted to talk about. So let's crack in. I'd be keen to hear what people think about all of these moves. Some of these moves I think are bonkers. I've been super vocal, especially about Red Bull, saying they are crazy not to sign Carlos Sainz. Why are they keeping Sergio Perez? Why would they do that? At the time of our last recording, last podcast recording we did, it was very heavily rumored that Perez was about to get his contract extended, and then it was like 3, 2, 1. Red Bull have extended Sergio Perez's contract. Now, some people have said it's for 2 years. Some other people have said it's for 1 year plus another 1 year. That seems about right. There's probably some performance clauses as well to say, we'll give you 1 year. We'll keep you for a second year if you are within this percentage of Verstappen, or you perform this well. If we win the championship and you finish below 7th, you're out. I don't know. Marco explains reasons why Red Bull offered Perez contract extension. Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko has provided insight into the team's decision to retain Sergio Perez until 2026. Marko explained that to Red Bull, he was the obvious selection. We wanted to ensure continuity in the team, the 81-year-old told motorsport.com. Max Verstappen and Checo Perez have a good relationship and a good understanding of each other. So I call it a logical choice. Checo delivers, he has his ups and downs, but he's still a fast driver. Max Verstappen was asked for comment and he said this.
Mate, where's the toilet paper?
So he's obviously very concerned. I still think the key to understanding why Checo Perez was signed lies within the power that Max Verstappen and Jos Verstappen, to a lesser degree, wield in that team. They will do anything to keep Max Verstappen, even if it means having a driver like Sergio Perez, who very much struggles to score points at all when the other car is winning. There's been maybe better news. I guess this is a flow-on from the news of Sergio Perez signing at Red Bull. RB confirms Tsunoda for 2025 F1 season. This is obviously not a Red Bull. This is at Racing Bulls or VCarb or whatever you want to call them. I call it VCarb. Sergio Perez signing a new deal at Red Bull alongside Max Verstappen. Tsunoda saw his slim chances of being promoted to the main team vanish, and the Japanese driver was widely expected to remain at RB instead. Now, he was rumoured to be joining Aston Martin, given that they are switching to Honda engines, and some people thought, well, Honda, the way they operate, they really like to have Japanese drivers driving their cars, so they may pull out all the stops to get him, but they did not. I'm very happy to be staying at RB, and it's a good feeling to have my future decided so early in the year. That's a bit of a reference to how crazy the silly season is kind of getting. For that, I want to thank everyone at Red Bull and Honda who have played such an important role in my career and will continue to do so. Good luck. Good luck, mate. Nothing else of interest down there. So Tsunoda, lock it in. He's staying. It's interesting, I think extremely interesting, that they were willing to confirm Tsunoda but not Ricciardo. or even announcing Lawson or whoever. It just, announcing Tsunoda and not Ricciardo just makes you ask more questions about what they want to do with Ricciardo. I don't think Ricciardo is being sought out by any other teams, to be honest. Again, we're back to the F1 website. Again, we're back to this. Like, it's multiple screens worth of scrolling I've got to do. So we all know what happened in Monaco, and we probably have seen the headlines. Esteban Ocon being summarily dismissed by the Alpine Formula One team. Ocon opens up on Alpine exit as he dismisses suggestions of Monaco punishment. Here he is probably doing that, or perhaps thinking about his latest, like what he's watching on Netflix right now. Could be either way. In the wake of a dramatic first-lap collision between Ocon and teammate Pierre Gasly at the Monaco Grand Prix, it was announced that the 27-year-old will leave the squad when his current contract expires. Asked in an interview with Sky Sports F1 if he was being punished for what happened in Monaco and how much the incident influenced his impending departure from Alpine, Ocon said, well, not really, not at all. Pretty convincing and not wavering at all. He explains, though, I think this is convincing. A group like Renault doesn't take decisions on single moments like that. For us, it was important that we've discussed for several months and we've decided together not to continue. It's no secret that we've been talking with Alpine and various other teams as well. Who could be those other teams? I think I haven't highlighted it, but of interest, the young man, Jack Doohan, was supposed to race in practice in Canada. I think he got washed out and he didn't even set a lap. But with Ocon leaving, sure looking like this guy might be on his way to steal your girl, aka steal your Formula One seat. Another Aussie on the grid. How about them apples? This caught my eye and I didn't know where to put it, so I've shoehorned it in here. Apologies if you feel like this is gratuitous. But with Alpine announcing that they are letting go of a driver, they are also welcoming in someone else. Who could it be? The answer may surprise you. ApeCoin, DAO, and BWT Alpine F1 team announced a multi-year collaborative partnership ahead of Miami Grand Prix. So this is a bit of an old story, but I've been waiting to share it. Ape Foundation, as steward of Ape... can you even believe? This is an Alpine press release. Can you even believe this shit? Ape Foundation, as steward of ApeCoin, the world's leading Web3 culture token, announced today an unprecedented multi-year partnership with BWT Alpine F1 team. Now, there's crypto like sponsorship through Formula One. Unfortunately, it's crept in. It's a bit like cigarettes or gambling or whatever. These crypto coins, NFTs, online gambling, digital gambling with digital coins. It's all here. The problem is, why ApeCoin? The absolute joke coin. What is going on here? This is the quote. This is the quote. I can't even say it with a straight face. After the ApeCoin community decided to create the Ape Chain. Okay. After the ApeCoin community... After the ApeCoin community decided to create the Ape Chain, we chose to partner with a global team that shares our values, including a commitment to strong culture and cutting-edge technology, said Hervé Laurent, Ape Foundation Special Council member and co-author of Ape Chain. Being French, BWT Alpine F1 team was the first name that came to mind. I'm delighted that the 140,000 members of the Ape community decided to bring our strong Web3 culture and our Ape Chain to the Alpine F1 ecosystem. Oh boy. They've just got so much to offer. Who knew? I mean, there used to be a joke. Remember that old clip from the Ricky Gervais podcast where Carl Pilkington was desperate to talk about monkey news, and he told this story about the Monza gorilla, which he got completely wrong, but he must have just Googled gorilla, and that was the story that came up. But he's like, yeah, this little guy was racing around, and no one knew who he was, and then he won the race, and he got out, took his helmet off, just a little monkey, and everyone loses their shit. Like, that didn't happen. Now there's literally monkeys in F1. No, there's ape coins racing on the ape chain. Can't wait till they change their name to Apeen. Why the fuck is ApeCoin getting involved in Formula One? Something is going on. What could that be? Well, let's have a look at this. Just did a bit of Googling on ApeCoin to see what their deal is these days. Gucci and Tag Heuer are now accepting ApeCoin at boutiques across the US. Gucci is going bananas for ApeCoin. The Italian fashion house will now accept Bored Ape Yacht Club tokens, ApeCoin, APE, for all in-store purchases in select boutiques across the US, according to a tweet shared on Tuesday. Gucci actually started accepting a range of cryptocurrencies back in May, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, and Shiba Inu, whatever the hell that is. But it is the first luxury brand to embrace ApeCoin as a form of payment. Well, aren't you cool and edgy? So there you go. Congratulations. Next time you go to buy a Gucci bag, don't forget to charge up your ape wallet with some $8 and go in and say, give me one of your finest ape infused, what do you buy at Gucci? A bag, jacket? I don't know. I suspect that what's going on here is Bored Ape are absolutely laundering their image. Something like, I mean, if you haven't been following that stuff, and I don't know, it's fine that you don't. But they have become a bit of a joke, and I'm making a joke out of them. Some comments here. Thank you, Drew, who's watching along. The ApeCoin community decided to create the ape chain is one of the funniest sentences I've ever heard. I know, tell me about it. It's just so hard to take it seriously. But have a listen to this. Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs sold for millions in 2021. Prices have dropped 90% since then. This is what I say, that I feel like the ape community, the ape thought leaders down there, the primate thought leaders at the Bored Ape Yacht Club must be trying, like they're looking for something else, because unfortunately they tried the whole NFT thing and it went absolutely bust. Bored Ape Yacht Club floor price declines. The news comes as the floor price for the popular NFT collection, once touted by celebrities like Justin Bieber and Paris Hilton, sinks to lows not seen since it was released in 2021. So what does that mean? The price that you would pay for the cheapest of the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs was cheaper than it was before they launched it. The floor price is the lowest price an NFT in a given collection will sell for. As of May 1, Bored Ape Yacht Club's floor price hovered around, call it 13 Ethereum, according to OpenSea, which would be worth nearly $40,000 at the time of publication. Now, don't get me wrong, $40,000 is, like, it's more than I've got on me right now, right? But let's read on. That's down from a peak floor price of 128 Ethereum on May 1st, 2022, according to NFT Price Floor, which would have been worth around $354,000 at the time, nearly 10 times as much. That's a far cry from the top prices Bored Apes once sold for in September 2021, call it 9 months earlier. A Bored Ape was auctioned at Sotheby's for a little over $24 million. Mate, who knew that there was so much money in pictures of cartoon apes with fucking sailor hats or like holding a balloon or whatever? I worry about Formula One chasing all of this money when it's like it could just dissolve overnight. And we saw how devastating that was for Haas when all of the rich energy stuff just fell through, and it took them a long time to recover. There's no difference in this. I mean, it shows how desperate Alpine are, I guess. So I don't know. It's got me scratching my head, and I hope it's not, because I've got nits or something from some damn dirty ape. But what can you do? Let's have a look at the Formula One state of things in the US. I keep a bit of an eye on this because there were narratives going around like last year that were like, Formula One viewership is in decline, basically from the Max Verstappen haters who were like, Formula One's got to do something because people are turning off in droves. This story caught my eye. So I've got it here via a thread, a post, but I did have a whole article for it. But what I've got right now is the thread. It reads, the Miami Grand Prix achieved a remarkable feat by breaking the US Formula One TV viewership record last Sunday. The race garnered an average of 3.1 million viewers on ABC, surpassing the previous record of 2.6 million viewers set by the Miami Grand Prix 2 years ago in 2022. This is the stuff that catches my eye because I'm like, oh boy, bring it on, you howdy. It is always interesting when you hear about how Formula One's doing in the States, because I always have to wonder, are we making gains in the US, but are we losing in the rest of the world? It's always hard to get numbers about how we're doing in the rest of the world for viewership. It seems, though, like more people are going to the races than ever before. That's something that we can kind of measure. Sure, we've got a bit of a honeymoon period post-COVID on, as everything opens back up, people are flooding to the races. That's terrific. But what gauges have we got for the health of the sport? You'd have to argue that at the moment, the health of the sport's not too bad. But it's things like this that we can look to, How many people were watching the races? Well, more than ever before. I also read in another article that even people were, they broke record numbers for viewerships of the sprint races. And it was like 1 million people were watching that. Now, I mean, even casual fans know that sprint races are crap and no one wants to watch them. They're garbage, but it's still rating and the ratings are still going up. Always love to see that. Even more than that, look at this. From some website called DMarge, which I don't whatever that is. Eye-watering revenue from the F1 Las Vegas Grand Prix will blow your mind. Clark County, Nevada has released a report detailing the staggering economic impact of the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix, with the first Formula One race held on the iconic strip in more than 40 years, bringing in more than $1.5 billion in revenue for the city. According to the report, the Las Vegas Grand Prix generated more than $1.5 billion, which is 2.3 billion AUD if you're in Australia. If you're not, then who cares? Including $884 million spent by the hundreds of thousands of Grand Prix visitors. Now this says that does not even include the increased price of the race day ticket. Now it was the first race, so when they say the increased price, I'm not sure what that means, but you might remember everyone was complaining about how damn expensive the tickets were. They had a pool of affordable tickets that went straight away, and it seemed like they were using that to suck people in. Come, it's only a few $100s. And then when people went to buy the tickets, they were like, but all the ones that are a few $100s are gone, and all that's left is like $3,000 tickets. And they're like, whoopsie. But still, this says all this money was raised, and that's excluding tickets, which is like, okay. Other good things for Las Vegas. Elsewhere, Formula One spent $88 million on improvements in public infrastructure to accommodate a sporting event of this magnitude, and the direct economic impact, not including the money spent on acquiring the disused land in the first place, total $329 million. Finally, local workers were paid $52 million in the first full year, with the Las Vegas Grand Prix supporting more than 7,300 jobs in the local area, including 2,200 for race-related infrastructure, 5,100 jobs, when including event operations and wider visitor spending. That all sounds pretty bloody good. So again, I just look for these little signs of how is Formula One doing stateside. You'd have to say all signs are pointing to things being pretty good. And it had better be, and I'll tell you why. I've covered this story a couple of times, and the first time I covered this story, it blew up to be the most popular video that we've posted so far, but it was about Lewis Hamilton's movie that he's making with Brad Pitt. They're both producing it, about Formula One. So we got our first look when Brad Pitt sort of took to the track to race, and the photos came out, and I put that on in a video, and it just went berserk. Did a follow-up video thinking, here we go. The follow-up story will be just as good, but didn't quite get the same amount of attention. But here's an update on how that movie is going and how it's important. Again, remember I said it was important? It's very important. It's very much this.
Wow, I guess this is a big moment. I should care about it.
We hope so. That Formula One does well in the US because look at this. This is from Screen Rant. Brad Pitt's next movie will reportedly be one of the most expensive ever made. Brad Pitt's Formula One movie has a budget of over $300 million, making it one of the most expensive ever. Production delays due to the SAG-AFTRA strike and real actors in race cars have caused costs to soar. The film faces challenges due to its high budget with no release date or distributor confirmed. Ooh. If you saw recently, Lewis Hamilton was on the Hot Ones podcast video stream live thing, whatever that's called, Hot Ones. And they asked him about the movie, and he said one of the cool things about it is that it's like the speed is real. Like normally they'll shoot the cars and speed up the footage. He's like, in this one, we're not going to do that. In this one, it's real. What does that mean? Well, let's see. The movie started production in July 2023, just days before the 118-day SAG-AFTRA strike started, which significantly delayed production. It did to a degree, but remember they got exemption to keep doing stuff, so they did some stuff. But sure, it must have caused some issues. Another reason why the Formula One film is so expensive is because, similar to Top Gun Maverick, the movie put real actors in real race cars. This includes Pitt, who drove a modified Formula 2 car with an added Formula 1 aerodynamic package during the British Grand Prix weekend. Though not in an official Formula 1 race, putting real actors in real cars requires an extensive amount of training and enhanced safety protocols, which are necessary but naturally increase costs. So there you go. That ties in with the Lewis Hamilton note from before. But this is where it really starts to get interesting. A typical break-even point on a film equals to 2.5 times a film's budget, with the box office take-home on the higher end, 2.5 to 3 times the budget needed to make money. So with the $300 million budget, the Formula One film will have a tough road ahead to become profitable. The film will need to make at least $600 million, but more likely $750 to $900 million just to break even and come close to anything resembling a profit. Grossing $1 billion is extremely rare in the film industry. Only 54 films have ever made that achievement. Even more notable is the fact that only 71 films have ever grossed over $900 million worldwide. Based on these current numbers, Brad's movie would not only have to succeed at the box office to break even, he would have to be in the top 75 highest grossing films of all time in order to turn a significant profit. Though Pitt is an A-list actor, box office history would suggest that he alone is not enough to bring a movie to the level of success that this budget would require. Pitt's highest grossing movie was the 2003 zombie film World War Z. Do you remember that? Because I do not. Ranking 218th all-time, World War Z brought in $540 million at the worldwide box office. So that's his most profitable film. And they're like, it needs to do basically double that. Oh dear. Now, they do throw it a bone here. One saving grace for the Formula One movie could be its director, Kaczynski, I forget his first name, the guy who directed Top Gun Maverick. He is also the director of this movie. And like that movie, they similarly used practical stunts, though with planes instead of race cars, and that was a major draw. Though it benefited from being a long-awaited sequel, Maverick ended up taking home over $1.4 billion worldwide to become the 12th highest-grossing film of all time. Perhaps Kaczynski can manage to harness some of his good fortune with Top Gun Maverick in order to save Formula One from financial disaster. I'm saying Formula One there, that's because that's what they're saying, but what they mean is the Formula One film. that's a bit heavy. I want that film to be good. I want it to do well, but it sounds like it's going to be a bit of a problemo, that it's not going to make enough money. I read another article about that said you don't even have to worry because Apple TV are involved with that production, and they, especially in recent years, especially if you think about them funding like that Martin Scorsese film, what's it called? Hearts from the Wild River, River Moon Man, something like that. They threw hundreds of millions of dollars at it, and they were always going to lose money, but it was a prestige thing for them, a prestige play for them. So they're like, look, don't even worry. Apple TV are involved. They're not going to get annoyed at Brad Pitt if they don't make enough money, right? Like, they're too busy being like, oh, let's make the corn, like, thinner, you know, being all Apple. They're not going to be like, Brad Pitt, you know, he lost $1 billion. They're like, whatever. We've got plenty of other $1 billion. Are you going to go see the Formula One film when it comes out? Maybe buy a whole row when you go to help them out. A couple more stories to go. I've been going for 45 minutes already. But anyway, I'm having fun. Let's see what's next. This story, I think, has gone under the radar a little bit. We're all thinking about Ferrari, the resurgence of their form, winning Monaco, being right up there as a, you know, one of the leaders. One of the big hopes that will challenge Red Bull for wins, maybe for championships. Where they have not been doing so well lately is, sponsorship. I think the HP sponsorship has been a bit of a mixed, there's been mixed reactions to it. Everyone loved that blue merch that they launched. But at least in part, the return of the Ferrari blue, the Azure Ferraro, whatever that is, part of the reason for that has been masking the HP sponsorship and how jarring it is compared to the Ferrari red. Now, these photos were released a little while ago, but I'll pull them up on the screen. Another thing that they've been doing is partnering with the FIA to test some of these things. Now, these are rain flaps, like this little hood over the wheel so that presumably the wheel can turn. There's got to be a million problems with this, but again, this is just a test. But the whole idea was, hey, you know, and we saw it in Canada this weekend when the race started in wet conditions and there was just spray everywhere. Someone, and I'm sure this has probably been an idea they've had for years, why don't we just put a cover over the wheel? Then there won't be wheel spray. It'll all be fine. It just won't be a problem. This is what we end up with, these sort of ugly looking things. So that's one view. And I mentioned the HP sponsorship, not to bag them out or anything. But let me get this. Look at this. There's already, someone counted, I think there's 11 HP logos on the Formula One Ferrari car. And then look at what they've done here. Let's put some more HP logos on the side of these rain hoods. God, what a joke. Well, I don't know. Do you think they're a joke? You tell me. Do I have one more look at these? The VTF one. After closer inspection, yeah, there's these casters. It might be an upgrade if they sit on the back with a fire extinguisher and fire it off. Get a bit of extra. That's a boost. Maybe that's the 2026 regulations. It's a worry. I mean, the logo, the look of it. I mean, the jokes are already writing themselves. So imagine if these become a real thing. We'll be a laughing stock. Not a fan. Just don't know about any of that. I hope they don't slow the cars down too. Oh man, imagine if they put them on the cars.
The car is bad, we know. Please drive it.
Don't do that. Don't go doing that. I do want to go out on a high point. Some good news. Something to look forward to, you could say. We know that Formula One, Drive to Survive is sort of growing the audience for Formula One in the States, which is amazing. People are talking about the halo effect that it's having. We talked about People are going to the races. It brings in more money. The TV viewership is going up. Everyone's desperate now to get a piece of this Drive to Survive pie. That's why they've spun it off, and they're doing one for golf, one for tennis, and they're doing I don't even know what they're called, full swing, and that could be the golf one or the tennis one, I guess. Maybe there's another one. The tennis one's called Don't Cause a Racket. The golf one is called Teeing Up, something like that. Drive. They could call the golf one Drive to Survive, or Putt. Anyway, I'm not good at names, in case that's not obvious. But I said this was good news, so what's the news? This from the great people at Autosport. F1 Academy announces new Netflix docu-series release date and how to watch. F1 Academy has revealed it will get the Drive to Survive treatment as Netflix announces a new docu-series about the all-female racing series. Yay! F1 Academy is set to feature in a new Netflix documentary series in partnership with Reese Witherspoon's production company Hello Sunrise. The documentary is currently in production and will feature a behind-the-scenes look at the 2024 all-female single-seater season. So if you've never heard of F1 Academy, it's basically what was it called? W Series? It's what that has become when W Series fell apart, couldn't pay anybody any money. It kind of dissolved, and it's been incorporated into this new thing. But the long and short of it is, it's about female racers not Formula One, but in the feeder category to get more, give them an opportunity to show what they can do, and then even more of an opportunity to get to know the characters in this Drive to Survive series. It says here, obviously, to state the bleeding obvious, it's hoped the series will follow the success of Netflix's Formula One Drive to Survive and bring the Academy series to a new group of fans. Managing Director of F1 Academy, Susie Wolf, said, "We want to be the rocket fuel that drives female participation in our sport, both on and off the track. To have the F1 Academy docu-series launched globally with Netflix is not just a huge step forward in visibility for our mission, but also a resounding statement about the momentum and demand for women's sport. We want to inspire and empower the next generation of young women, and Netflix will open up F1 Academy to a global audience of existing and future fans." It's going to be great for young women who are good at racing to want to be involved in the series. It's going to be great for sponsors who want to get involved. Reese Witherspoon added, "We started Hello Sunshine to change the narrative for women, and Susie Wolf and F1 Academy are doing just that by creating new opportunities in the thrilling world of motorsport. As these dynamic and fearless drivers break barriers behind the wheel, we are excited to partner with Netflix to tell their stories, the stories of these powerhouse leaders. What we know is that when we put women at the center, people will show up to watch." Yeah, that's great. If I have one concern about all that, it's that people might think, don't need to watch the races, don't need to follow along because there's going to be a series about it. I'll just watch the series. I guess that's the double-edged sword of this, but hopefully, if that happens, hopefully the flow-on effect is that it becomes they feed each other. And you see this in Formula One now. People go, I'm interested in this Drive to Survive. I might start watching the races. So having that exposure through a series like that should attract more people to the races themselves, which would be great. But I think that's just a really good result. The only other thing that they could perhaps do, maybe not for this, but for something else, is follow the Iron Dames, who seem to be doing really, really well. But they just have such a very positive story to tell, had some success recently. Whatever they happen to be doing, whatever the Iron Dames happen to be doing, they could just follow that motoring group on their exploits. That's it for this live stream. I am done. I went through everything that I wanted to go through. Thanks everyone for watching. They'll be back with a podcast in a couple of weeks. I try and use the live streams as a way of going through weird stuff, different stuff. Hopefully stuff that's not specifically related to a race. That's kind of more what the podcast is for. Obviously, Zach's with me on the podcast as well, so it's not just me talking to myself most of the time. Also, hope you enjoyed, and if you haven't watched it, caught up with Stuart Codling, aka Codders, about his new book, McLaren Car by Car, something like that. McLaren Car by Car, all the cars going back to 1966. So he profiles all the cars gets to tell the story of the team, but also all the great drivers and all the great seasons and races and moments. So that is in the podcast feed, but it's also in the video feed if you want to watch. If you want to put it on in the background, maybe the podcast is a better listen. If you want to watch along with our expressions and understand what we're talking about a little deeper, the video is there as well. But I don't always get that opportunity to talk to people like that. I'd like to do a lot more of that. Even just catching up with random people. So I think on future live streams, I might try and get whoever's around. It could be Zach, but it could be just someone else who runs another Threads account, another podcast. Some other podcasters might be good. Just have them on and say, what's on your mind? What's happening in your perspective in terms of the world of Formula One? Well, I guess there's that to look forward to. I'll try and come back and do more streams. Try and do one. I mean, I guess the TikTok that I'm on is something like there'll be a podcast once a month and there'll be a live stream once a month, and those two will TikTok between each other. And if I can keep that going, that would be sort of ideal, wouldn't it? In the meantime, here's some music. Here's some places you can follow us. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.